My lover killed our baby. So I called the billionaire CEO he fears most.
You're the one person in this world Vincent fears,
Nadia said, her voice barely above a whisper as she faced the imposing man across his polished desk. And after what he did to me, to our baby, I need someone who can make him truly afraid. Gabriel Thornton, billionaire CEO of Sentinel Enterprises, studied the broken woman before him. His dark eyes, normally calculating and cold in business negotiations, softened almost imperceptibly. "Why should I help you?" he asked, leaning forward. "What makes your tragedy my concern?" Nadia placed a small, worn photograph on his desk, a sonogram. Her hands trembled as she slid it toward him.
"Because you fired Vincent 5 years ago for embezzlement. Because he drinks himself into a rage, cursing your name.
Because he pushed me down a flight of stairs and killed our unborn daughter." Her voice cracked. "And because the police won't help me, but you can." Gabriel picked up the sonogram, something dangerous flickering across his features. "Tell me everything," he said quietly. "And I mean everything." The nightmare replayed in Nadia Winter's mind like a broken record. Rain pounding against the windows, glass shattering. His rage, her pleading, the brutal shove that sent her tumbling down the stairs. The hospital, the doctor's face. "I'm sorry, but you've lost the baby." 6 months later, Nadia sat in her small apartment, finger hovering over the call button. The name on her screen belonged to someone she'd never met but had researched obsessively. Gabriel Thornton, CEO of Sentinel Enterprises. The man her ex-boyfriend Vincent feared more than anyone in the world. This was either the bravest or most foolish thing she'd ever done. The phone rang 3 times before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Mr. Thornton's office." Nadia took a deep breath. "My name is Nadia Winters. I need to speak with Mr. Thornton about Vincent Porter." A pause. "And your relationship to Mr. Porter?" "I'm his ex-girlfriend. And I have information Mr. Thornton would find valuable." Another pause, longer this time. "1 moment, please." Nadia waited, heart hammering against her ribs. She glanced around her tiny studio apartment, all she could afford after losing her job and draining her savings on medical bills. The cheap furniture, the water stains on the ceiling, the thin walls through which she could hear her neighbors arguing. This wasn't how her life was supposed to turn out. "Miss Winters," the voice returned, "Mr. Thornton can see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Please arrive at Sentinel Tower 15 minutes early for security processing." Nadia closed her eyes in relief. "Thank you. I'll be there." After ending the call, she crossed to the small closet that contained her meager wardrobe. What did one wear to meet a billionaire CEO and ask him for revenge? She pulled out the one decent outfit she hadn't been forced to sell, a simple navy dress she'd worn to job interviews. It would have to do. In the bathroom mirror, Nadia barely recognized herself. The woman who looked back at her seemed older, her once bright eyes now shadowed, her cheekbones more prominent from the weight she'd lost. She touched the faint scar above her eyebrow, a souvenir from that final night with Vincent. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. "For Lily." The next morning, Nadia emerged from the subway into downtown's financial district. Sentinel Tower rose before her 60 stories of steel and glass reaching toward the sky. Taking a deep breath, she joined the stream of well-dressed professionals entering the building. At the security desk, she stated her name and appointment. The guard's eyes widened slightly. "You're here to see Mr. Thornton? Personally?" Nadia nodded, fighting the urge to fidget under his scrutiny. "I'll need to see some ID, ma'am." After checking her driver's license and making a call, the guard handed her a visitor's badge. 58th floor. The elevator on the far right is express. The elevator ascended silently, each floor bringing her closer to what might be her only chance at justice. When the doors opened, she stepped into a reception area designed to impress sleek modern furniture, abstract art, and floor-to-ceiling windows, showcasing panoramic city views. A professionally dressed woman with a sharp bob approached her. "Miss Winters? I'm Meredith Chen, Mr. Thornton's executive assistant. He'll be with you shortly." Nadia sat rigidly in the offered chair, painfully aware of her worn shoes and the small tear in her purse she'd tried to repair. Everything about this place screamed wealth and power, exactly what she needed but could never access on her own.
20 minutes later, Meredith's phone buzzed. "Miss Winters? Mr. Thornton will see you now."
Following Meredith down a corridor, Nadia rehearsed her opening words. The assistant knocked on a massive door, opened it, and announced her presence before stepping aside. "Miss Winters? Mr. Thornton will see you now." Nadia smoothed her second-hand dress, wondering if the receptionist could hear her thundering heartbeat. The sleek hallways of Sentinel Tower felt like another world compared to the life she'd been living working double shifts at a diner while trying to piece together her shattered existence. When the massive oak doors swung open, she expected to find an imposing figure behind a fortress-like desk. Instead, Gabriel Thornton stood by floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouette cut against the city skyline. He turned, and Nadia's breath caught. Newspaper photos hadn't captured the intensity of his eyes, dark, evaluating, and somehow ancient, in a face that couldn't be older than 40. Nadia Winters. His voice was surprisingly gentle for someone who commanded an empire. "You claimed this meeting was about Vincent Porter." She nodded, throat dry. "Before I fired him for embezzlement," Gabriel gestured to a chair. "Please sit. Tell me why you're here." The words lodged in her throat. How could she explain to this stranger the horror of her last year? The gradual isolation, the escalating control, the final explosion of violence that cost her everything? "Vincent killed my baby," she finally said, the words hanging raw in the air. "He pushed me down the stairs during an argument. I was 7 months pregnant." Gabriel's expression didn't change, but something shifted in those dark eyes, like watching storm clouds gather on the horizon. "The police wouldn't help," she continued. "His family has connections in the department. There wasn't enough evidence, they said. But you," her voice strengthened. "He's terrified of you. When he was drunk, he'd talk about the ruthless bastard who ruined him, how you had destroyed his career and blacklisted him in the industry. And what exactly are you asking of me, Miss Winters?" "Justice." The word felt both hollow and immense. "I don't know what that looks like. I just know I can't let him walk away unscathed while I—" Her voice broke. "While I visit a tiny grave every Sunday." Gabriel walked to his desk, pressed a button. "Meredith, clear my afternoon." He turned back to Nadia. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." The story poured out of her meeting Vincent at an art gallery opening where she'd been catering, his charm and attentiveness, the whirlwind romance. Then the gradual transformation, checking her phone, questioning her friendships, monitoring her whereabouts. By the time she realized the danger, she was already pregnant and increasingly isolated. "The pregnancy wasn't planned," she explained. "But I fell in love with my baby immediately. I thought Vincent would change when he knew he was going to be a father." Gabriel's face remained impassive, but his hands had tightened into fists. "He seemed excited at first. We started planning a nursery, names. Then came the accusations that the baby wasn't his, that I was using the pregnancy to trap him." She described the final night returning home late from a doctor's appointment to find Vincent waiting, drunk and enraged. His accusations, her attempts to calm him, the escalating argument. "I was halfway down the stairs when he shoved me." Her voice turned distant. "I remember falling, trying to curl around my stomach to protect her. The hospital said it was placental abruption from the trauma." Gabriel stood abruptly, turning toward the windows. When he spoke, his voice contained something dangerous. "Her?" "A little girl," Nadia whispered. "I named her Lily." For several moments, neither spoke. When Gabriel finally turned back, his expression had transformed from controlled businessman to something primal. "I will help you," he said. "But I need you to understand something. What I'm about to do isn't simply for you." He walked to a small bar in the corner of his office, poured 2 glasses of water. When he handed one to Nadia, their fingers brushed, and she was surprised by the unexpected gentleness. 15 years ago, he said quietly, "my sister Sophia died in circumstances not unlike yours. Her boyfriend," his jaw tightened. "By the time I found out what was happening, it was too late." Understanding dawned on Nadia. "That's why you're willing to help a stranger." "You're not a stranger anymore, Nadia. You're someone who deserves justice." He sat across from her. I have resources, influence, and a particular set of skills when it comes to men like Vincent, but I need you to trust me." Something in his eyes, perhaps the shadow of his own grief, made her decision easy. "I trust you." Gabriel nodded, then opened a laptop on his desk. "Tell me about Vincent's current situation, where he works, lives, his routine." Nadia provided what information she could. Vincent's position at Meridian Financial, his condo downtown, the bars he frequented. "And your situation?" Gabriel asked. "Are you safe? Where are you living?" She hesitated, embarrassed by her circumstances. "I have a small apartment in Westside. It's not great, but it's what I can afford right now. I lost my job after everything. Too many sick days." Gabriel made a note on his computer. "That won't do." "Excuse me?" "If we're going to bring Vincent to justice, you need to be secure. He's already demonstrated what he's capable of." Gabriel pressed a button on his desk. "Meredith, get Helena from legal, and Isaac from security. Immediate priority." "I can't accept charity," Nadia protested. "I came for help with Vincent, not—" "This isn't charity," Gabriel interrupted. "It's strategy. Vincent is well connected, as you've learned. When we move against him, he'll lash out. I need you somewhere. He can't reach you." Before Nadia could argue further, the door opened as two people entered: a tall woman with silver-streaked black hair and a broad-shouldered man with a military bearing. "Helena, Isaac, this is Nadia Winters," Gabriel introduced. "Miss Winters, Helena Reyes heads our legal department, and Isaac Mercer oversees security." Helena extended her hand with a warm smile that contrasted her formidable appearance. "Miss Winters." Isaac nodded respectfully, but remained near the door, eyes assessing the room in a way that spoke of years of training. "Miss Winters needs secure accommodations immediately," Gabriel explained. "And we need to build a case against Vincent Porter." Helena's expression darkened. "Porter? I remember him." "You'll have everything you need," Gabriel continued. "Resources, personnel, whatever it takes. Isaac, I want her protected around the clock." "Sir, the Parkview property is vacant and secure," Isaac suggested. "Private entrance, monitored perimeter, 10 minutes from headquarters." Gabriel nodded. "Perfect. Have it prepared today." Nadia listened to them discussing her life, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. "I can't afford—" "Consider it an investment in justice," Gabriel interrupted gently. "When this is over, you can decide what happens next. For now, let us help you." Helena sat beside Nadia. "I'll need to record your full statement. Everything you remember about Vincent's behavior, witnesses, medical records, any communications you still have." "Can you do that today?" Nadia nodded numbly. "Good." Gabriel stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "Isaac will escort you to collect your belongings, then take you to the new apartment. Helena will meet you there to begin building the case." As everyone prepared to leave, Gabriel touched Nadia's arm lightly. "One more thing. From this moment forward, you're under my protection. That means something in this city. Remember that." The gravity of his words sank in slowly as she left his office. In less than an hour, this powerful stranger had set in motion resources she could never have accessed alone. For the first time since losing Lily, Nadia felt something unfamiliar, a flicker of hope. The Parkview property turned out to be a spacious 2-bedroom apartment in one of the city's most exclusive buildings. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a lush central park, and the furnishings were elegant yet comfortable. "This is temporary?" Nadia asked incredulously as Isaac conducted a security walkthrough. "Mr. Thornton owns the building," he explained. "These units are kept available for visiting executives and special circumstances." "Special circumstances," she repeated. "Is that what I am?" Isaac paused, his professional demeanor softening slightly. "In my 5 years working for Mr. Thornton, he's never cleared his schedule for anyone the way he did for you today. So yes, I'd say your situation qualifies as special." After ensuring the apartment was secure and explaining the security features, Isaac stationed a team member in the lobby. "Daniel will be here overnight. I'll return in the morning to escort you to your appointment with Miss Reyes." When Helena arrived an hour later with a digital recorder and laptop, Nadia had just finished exploring the apartment, discovering a kitchen stocked with food, a bathroom with luxury toiletries, and a closet containing several new outfits in what appeared to be her size. "Mr. Thornton is thorough," Helena commented, noting Nadia's surprise. "Now, shall we begin?" The next 3 hours were grueling as Nadia recounted every detail of her relationship with Vincent. The early romance, the gradual control, the escalating abuse, and finally, the night that ended with Lily's death. Helena recorded everything, occasionally stopping to ask clarifying questions. "Do you have the medical records?" she asked gently. Nadia nodded, retrieving a folder from her bag. "The hospital reports, the death certificate, the photos they took of my injuries." Helena reviewed them, her professional composure slipping only once when she saw the photos of Nadia's bruised and battered body in the hospital bed. "We'll need contact information for anyone who witnessed Vincent's behavior," Helena said, returning to business. "Friends, neighbors, co-workers, anyone who might have seen something." "I lost touch with most people," Nadia admitted. "Vincent didn't like me having close friendships." "Classic isolation tactic," Helena muttered. "What about after? Did you tell anyone what really happened?" "My former manager at the catering company, Maya. She visited me in the hospital. And my neighbor, Elijah, he heard the argument that night, called the ambulance after I fell." Helena made notes. "Good, we'll speak with them." By the time they finished, evening had fallen. Nadia felt drained but somehow lighter, as if sharing her story had relieved some of the burden she'd carried alone for months. "You've been incredibly brave," Helena said, gathering her materials. "What you're doing, standing up to someone like Vincent, takes tremendous courage." "Does it?" Nadia asked wearily. "Sometimes it feels like desperation." "In my experience, they often look the same." Helena smiled. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we continue building your case." After Helena left, Nadia wandered to the window, gazing out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Vincent was living his life as if nothing had happened while she visited a tiny grave each Sunday, apologizing to the daughter she couldn't protect. "Not anymore," she whispered, pressing her palm against the cool glass. "Not anymore." The first month passed in a blur of activity. Gabriel moved Nadia into a secure apartment building he owned while his legal team gathered evidence against Vincent. Medical records, witness statements, text messages she'd forgotten sending to friends describing his behavior. "We're building a case the police can't ignore," explained Helena, Gabriel's razor-sharp legal counsel, and, simultaneously, ensuring Vincent's current employer understands exactly who they've hired. Gabriel himself remained mysteriously absent, communicating mainly through his staff. Nadia tried to ignore the strange emptiness this created, the irrationality of missing someone she barely knew. One evening, while reviewing potential witness statements with Helena, Nadia finally asked the question that had been bothering her. Why hasn't Gabriel Mr. Thornton been involved since that first day? Helena looked up from her laptop. "He's been very involved, just not visibly. Every morning he reviews our progress before his regular meetings. Every decision passes through him." "Oh," Nadia fiddled with her pen. "I just thought that he'd lost interest?" Helena smiled knowingly. "Gabriel operates differently than most people expect. He delegates execution but remains intensely focused on outcomes. Trust me, he's following your case very closely." Something in Helena's tone made Nadia wonder if there was more to the story, but before she could press further, Helena's phone rang. "Yes, sir," she answered, her expression shifting to concern. "Are you certain that's wise? I understand. We'll be ready." After ending the call, Helena began gathering her papers quickly. "We need to prepare. That was Gabriel. Vincent has discovered you're working with Sentinel." Nadia's blood ran cold. "How?" "We've been making inquiries, gathering evidence. Someone tipped him off." Helena's eyes narrowed. "Gabriel believes Vincent will react badly to this information." "What does that mean for me?" "It means we accelerate our timeline. The police will receive our evidence package tomorrow instead of next week." Helena placed a reassuring hand on Nadia's arm. "Don't worry. We've anticipated this. The building's security has been doubled, and Gabriel is—" A ping from Helena's phone interrupted her. She glanced at the screen, her eyes widening. "He's coming here, now." "Vincent?" Nadia asked, panic rising. No, Gabriel. He rarely leaves the office at this hour. Helena began tidying the documents scattered across the dining table. He must consider this development significant. 20 minutes later, Gabriel Thornton arrived at the apartment, escorted by Isaac. Despite the late hour, he looked immaculate in a charcoal suit, though the slight shadow along his jaw suggested a long day. "Nadia," he greeted her, his voice warming slightly. "I apologize for my absence these past weeks. Business matters required my attention." "It's fine," she replied, suddenly conscious of her casual attire, leggings, and an oversized sweater. "Helena has kept me informed." Gabriel nodded to Helena, who immediately began briefing him on their progress. Nadia observed their interaction, noting the easy rapport between them. Helena spoke with a directness few people probably used with someone of Gabriel's position, and he listened with complete focus, occasionally asking incisive questions. "Our source at Meridian confirmed Vincent received a call this afternoon," Helena explained. "He became agitated, left work early." "Has he made any moves?" Gabriel asked. "Not yet. We have surveillance on his condo and usual haunts." Gabriel turned to Nadia. "How are you holding up?" The unexpected personal question caught her off guard. "I'm managing. Some days are harder than others." His eyes softened momentarily. "And the nightmares?" She stared at him, surprised. "How did you know?" "Experience." The single word contained volumes. Before she could respond, Isaac entered from the hallway where he'd been conducting a security check. "Sir, we have movement. Porter's left his condo, heading this direction." Gabriel's expression hardened. "Time frame?" 15 minutes at current speed." "He knows where I am," Nadia realized, fear clawing at her throat. "Possibly," Gabriel conceded. "Or he's headed somewhere in this vicinity. Either way, we're prepared." Helena moved to Nadia's side. "We should move you to another location until—" "No," Gabriel interrupted. "This may be exactly what we need. If Vincent attempts to breach this building, we'll have him on multiple security cameras, trespassing at minimum." "You're using me as bait," Nadia said quietly. Gabriel's gaze met hers directly. "I'm using his obsession against him. There's a difference. You're completely safe." "Sir," Isaac interjected, "perimeter team confirms Porter just entered the parking garage across the street. He appears intoxicated." Gabriel turned to Helena. "Call Detective Rivera. Tell her we have a situation developing that concerns her ongoing investigation." Helena nodded, stepping away to make the call. "Nadia," Gabriel's voice gentled as he approached her. "I give you my word, no harm will come to you tonight." She searched his face, finding absolute certainty in his expression. "I trust you." His eyes widened slightly, as though her trust surprised him. Before he could respond, Isaac's comm unit buzzed. "Subject is approaching the building entrance. Appears agitated." Gabriel nodded. "Maintain positions. Let him enter the lobby." Nadia moved to the window, peering down at the street below. In the pool of light outside the building entrance, she spotted a familiar figure, Vincent, swaying slightly as he argued with someone outside the door. "The doorman is refusing him entry," Isaac reported. "Good," Gabriel replied. "Standard protocol for unauthorized visitors." Nadia watched as Vincent became increasingly animated, gesturing wildly. Even from this distance, she recognized the signs of his building rage, the same pattern that had preceded his worst outbursts during their relationship. "He's going to," she began, just as Vincent shoved past the doorman and forced his way into the building. "Lobby team, contain but do not engage," Isaac ordered into his comm. "Police are 4 minutes out." Gabriel moved to Nadia's side. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her heart raced painfully. "I just never thought I'd see him again." "You don't have to," Gabriel assured her. "We can move to the secure room." "No," Nadia squared her shoulders. "I'm done hiding from him." Gabriel studied her for a moment, something like admiration flickering in his eyes. "As you wish, but you remain behind Isaac and me at all times." They watched through the security feed as Vincent was intercepted by 2 plainclothes security officers in the lobby. His shouting was audible even through the video. "I know she's here. Nadia,"
I know you're in here with him. Sir, you need to leave the premises, one of the officers stated firmly. Don't tell me what to do. That bitch stole my life, my career, and now she's spreading lies. Even through the distortion of the security feed, the hatred in Vincent's voice sent a chill through Nadia. This was the real Vincent, the one he'd kept hidden during their early relationship, the one who had emerged fully the night he'd killed their child. Elevator's been disabled, Isaac reported. He can't access this floor. On the monitor, Vincent's rage escalated as he realized he was trapped in the lobby. He lunged at one of the security officers, swinging wildly. He's assaulting my staff, Gabriel observed coldly. Add that to the charges. As the security team subdued Vincent, police officers entered the lobby. Detective Rivera, whom Helena had been working with for weeks, led the group. Perfect timing, Gabriel remarked. Helena, please escort Detective Rivera up when she's ready. I believe Miss Winters will want to make a formal statement. Then came the night someone tried to break into her new apartment. The security team responded instantly, but not before Nadia glimpsed Vincent's face, contorted with rage, through the peephole. After the police took him away, Gabriel finally appeared at her door, concern etched into his features. Are you hurt? No, just shaken, she admitted, trying to still her trembling hands. Without warning, Gabriel pulled her into an embrace. The unexpected contact broke something inside her, the dam she'd built around her grief. For the first time since losing Lily, Nadia sobbed openly, clinging to his expensive suit while he held her steady. He found me, she whispered against his chest. No, Gabriel corrected gently. We let him find you. Every move he makes now strengthens our case. She pulled back, searching his face. You used me as bait? I used his obsession against him. There's a difference. His thumb brushed a tear from her cheek. I would never place you in genuine danger, Nadia. The intensity in his gaze made her step away, suddenly aware of the dangerous territory they were entering. Why are you really helping me? She asked. Your sister's story explains your compassion, but not this. She gestured around the luxurious apartment. Not the personal involvement. Gabriel's expression darkened. When I couldn't save Sophia, I promised myself I would never again stand idle while someone suffered a similar fate. He moved toward the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be challenging. After he left, Nadia sat alone in the quiet apartment, replaying the unexpected moment of connection. The formidable CEO had shown a glimpse of something raw and human, a shared understanding of loss that transcended their different worlds. For the first time since entering this arrangement, Nadia wondered if there might be more to Gabriel Thornton than the ruthless businessman Vincent had described, more than the calculated avenger she had sought out in desperation. This realization was both comforting and terrifying. The following morning, Nadia woke to news that Vincent had been formally charged, trespassing, assault, violating a newly granted restraining order. Helena arrived early to prepare Nadia for her statement to the prosecutor. His behavior last night was a gift, Helena explained. Combined with the evidence we've gathered, the DA has agreed to review the case regarding Lily. Hope bloomed cautiously in Nadia's chest. They'll reopen the investigation? They already have. Detective Rivera has been building this case alongside us from the beginning. Helena smiled. Gabriel has a talent for convincing the right people to pay attention. Through money? Nadia asked skeptically. Through irrefutable evidence and strategic pressure. Helena's expression grew serious. Make no mistake, Vincent has powerful connections. But Gabriel has spent years cultivating relationships with people who value justice over influence. Later that day, Nadia gave her statement to the prosecutor, revisiting again the nightmare that had changed her life. This time, however, she spoke with a confidence born from knowing she wasn't fighting alone. When she finished, the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Diane Maxwell, closed her notebook. Miss Winters, I want to be transparent with you. Cases like this are challenging, even with substantial evidence. Mr. Porter's family connections mean this will be an uphill battle. Nadia nodded, having expected as much. That said, Maxwell continued, the documentation provided by Sentinel's legal team is extraordinarily thorough, and your testimony is compelling. I believe we have grounds to charge Porter with domestic abuse, aggravated assault,
and involuntary manslaughter. The words hung in the air, a formal acknowledgement of what had happened to Lily. Nadia felt tears threatening and blinked them back.
"What happens next?" she asked. "We present to the grand jury next week. If they indict, which I expect they will, we move to trial." Maxwell gathered her papers. "It won't be easy, Miss Winters. Porter will hire the best defense attorneys. They'll try to discredit you, suggest the fall was accidental, question the paternity of your child, anything to create reasonable doubt."
"I know," Nadia said quietly. "I'm ready."
Maxwell studied her for a moment. "You have remarkable strength and powerful allies."
She glanced toward the door where Helena waited.
"Most victims in your position never get this far. Remember that."
After the prosecutor left, Helena drove Nadia back to the apartment. They rode in silence until Nadia finally asked the question weighing on her mind. "Will Gabriel be at the grand jury hearing?" Helena glanced at her, expression unreadable. "Does his presence matter to you?" Nadia hesitated. "He started this. I'd like him to see it through."
"Gabriel doesn't do anything halfway," Helena assured her.
"He'll be there. We have the Saul. The Saul, my teen. We have the Saul. The Saul, be there. We have the Dommeld, my teen use. We have the Saul, in de place." The preliminary hearing brought Nadia face to face with Vincent for the first time since that fateful night.
He looked smaller somehow. His once intimidating presence diminished under the fluorescent lights of the courthouse.
Gabriel sat beside her, a silent pillar of strength. His testimony about Vincent's history of violence and fraud at Sentinel Enterprises proved devastating. But the true turning point came when 3 other women stepped forward, previous girlfriends with similar stories of escalating abuse. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around them. Gabriel shielded Nadia with his body, guiding her toward the waiting car. As they slid into the back seat, he finally allowed a smile. "The district attorney is confident. Multiple charges, including assault and manslaughter." Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by a strange emptiness. For months, justice had been her singular focus. Now that it seemed within reach, what remained? As if reading her thoughts, Gabriel said, "This is just the beginning, Nadia. Healing comes next, and that's the harder journey." "Will you?" She stopped herself, alarmed by how much she wanted to ask if he would remain in her life.
"Will I what?"
He studied her face with unsettling intensity.
"Nothing."
She turned to watch the city pass outside the window. "It's not your responsibility to fix my life." "Perhaps I'm not trying to fix your life." His voice had softened. "Perhaps I'm trying to fix mine." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Before Nadia could respond, Gabriel's phone rang. After a brief conversation, he turned to her. "There's been a development. Vincent's father is attempting to leverage his connections to have the charges reduced." Nadia's heart sank. "Can he do that?" "He can try." Gabriel's jaw tightened, but he's about to learn that his influence has limitations. "What does that mean?" Gabriel's expression turned calculating. "It means I'm calling in some favors of my own." The car pulled up to the apartment building, and Gabriel escorted her inside. At her door, he paused. "I have meetings for the remainder of the day, but I'd like to check on you this evening, if that's acceptable." Nadia nodded, surprised by the formal request. "Of course." "Good." He hesitated, then added, "You were remarkable today, Nadia. Your courage. It's something to behold." Before she could respond, he turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving her with a strange, fluttering sensation in her chest. True to his word, Gabriel returned that evening. Nadia opened the door to find him holding 2 bags of takeout food. "I thought you might be hungry," he explained, looking almost uncertain. "After days like today, I rarely have the energy to cook." "You cook?" Nadia asked, unable to hide her surprise as she ushered him in. A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Is that so difficult to believe?" "Honestly, yes." She helped him unpack containers of fragrant Thai food. "I imagined you had a personal chef, or something equally extravagant." "I did briefly," he admitted, "but I found I prefer my own company in the kitchen. It's meditative." This glimpse into his personal life intrigued her. "What else do you do that might surprise me?" Gabriel considered this as he served the food. I build furniture. Nothing fancy, bookshelves, tables. Working with my hands helps clear my mind after dealing with corporate politics all day. They settled at the dining table, and for the first time, their conversation wandered away from Vincent and the case. Nadia found herself telling Gabriel about her former passion for photography, how she'd abandoned it gradually during her relationship with Vincent. He said it was a waste of time, she explained, pushing rice around her plate. Eventually, I believed him. Gabriel's expression darkened. Men like Vincent survive by diminishing others. It makes them feel powerful. Is that why you fired him? Did he try to diminish you? No, Gabriel replied, surprising her with his honesty. Vincent was arrogant but careful around authority figures. I fired him because I discovered he was skimming from client accounts. Small amounts at first, then growing bolder. When confronted, he blamed a colleague, a young woman who had repeatedly rejected his advances. That sounds like Vincent, Nadia said bitterly. Indeed, Gabriel set down his fork. I don't tolerate dishonesty or cruelty in my organization. Vincent demonstrated both. After dinner, they moved to the balcony with cups of tea. The city stretched before them, lights twinkling against the darkening sky. For a while, they sat in comfortable silence. What will you do after the trial? Gabriel finally asked. Nadia had been avoiding this question, even in her own thoughts. I don't know. Find a job, I suppose. Start over somewhere. And photography? She smiled sadly. Cameras are expensive. Gabriel turned to her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. What if money weren't an obstacle? What would you do then? That's a dangerous question, Nadia replied softly. For someone with nothing, imagining everything is painful. He nodded, understanding. Then let's approach it differently. What small step could you take toward reclaiming that part of yourself? Nadia considered this. I still have my old digital camera. The quality isn't great, but it works. I could start taking pictures again, just for myself. Good. Gabriel seemed genuinely pleased. Sometimes rebuilding begins with the smallest actions. When he left that night, something had shifted between them, a tentative bridge forming across the vast differences in their circumstances. The next morning, a package arrived for Nadia. Inside, she found a professional-grade camera with multiple lenses and accessories. A simple note accompanied it. To capturing new beginnings. G. Her first instinct was to return it. The gift was extravagant, inappropriate given their complex relationship. But as she held the camera, something long dormant awakened inside her. Before she could overthink it, she raised the viewfinder to her eye and began relearning the forgotten language of light and shadow. The trial stretched across 3 grueling months. Each day, Nadia forced herself to sit in the courtroom, listening to clinical descriptions of her trauma, enduring Vincent's stares, reliving the worst night of her life through testimony and evidence. Each evening, Gabriel would appear at her door with takeout food and quiet company. They developed an unspoken ritual dinner, then sitting side by side on her balcony, watching the city lights emerge while talking about everything except the trial. She learned he'd built Sentinel Enterprises from nothing after his sister's death, channeling his grief into creating a technology empire. He discovered she'd once been an aspiring photographer before meeting Vincent and abandoning her passion. You should start again, he suggested one evening, studying her profile in the fading light. I'm not that person anymore. No, he agreed. You're stronger now. The camera he'd given her had become a lifeline, a way to process emotions too complex for words. She began photographing small moments, raindrops on the window, shadows cast by morning light, her own reflection fragmented in broken glass, each image a piece of her emerging self. On particularly difficult days, when Vincent's attorney had been especially vicious in his questioning, Gabriel would find ways to remind her of the larger purpose. Sometimes through words, sometimes through simple presence. He keeps painting me as unstable, vengeful, Nadia said, after a particularly brutal day of cross-examination, making it sound like I invented everything. Gabriel's jaw tightened. That's a standard defense tactic. Discredit the victim. I hate that word, victim. Nadia set down her fork with more force than intended. It makes me sound helpless. What word would you prefer? She considered this,
Survivor, maybe. Or just Nadia, a person who experienced something terrible but isn't defined by it. Gabriel nodded slowly. Survivor suits you. One rainy evening in the trial's second month, their conversation veered into more personal territory. Tell me about Sophia, Nadia asked quietly. If you don't mind. Gabriel stared into his glass for so long she thought he might refuse. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. She was brilliant, creative, 4 years younger than me, but always seemed wiser somehow. She could read people in ways I never could. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. She wanted to be a writer. What happened with her boyfriend? Derek. Gabriel's expression hardened. He was charming, well-connected. The relationship started wonderfully. He was attentive, supportive. Then gradually, the isolation began, the criticism, the control. Nadia recognized the pattern all too well. Did she try to leave? 3 times. Gabriel set his glass down carefully. The final time, he found her at a friend's apartment. The official report called it a domestic dispute that escalated, as if that explains beating someone to death. Nadia gasped softly. Gabriel, I'm so sorry. I was overseas on business. His voice grew distant. She'd left me messages, but I was in meetings. Thought I'd call back later. Later never came. Understanding dawned on Nadia. That's why you dropped everything when I called about Vincent. He met her eyes. I couldn't save her, but perhaps through you. The unfinished sentence hung between them, heavy with shared grief and purpose. What happened to Derek? She finally asked. He received 15 years. His family had connections much like Vincent's. Gabriel's expression turned cold. He served 7 before being released on good behavior. And then, Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Let's just say he discovered that actions have consequences, regardless of how well-connected one might be. Something in his tone made Nadia shiver. She didn't ask for clarification. The conversation shifted afterward, but something had changed between them. A deeper understanding, a recognition of how their separate tragedies had created an unexpected bond. As the trial progressed, the evidence against Vincent mounted. Medical experts confirmed that Nadia's injuries were consistent with being pushed, not falling accidentally. Witnesses described Vincent's controlling behavior and previous incidents of aggression. Most damaging were the testimonies from Vincent's previous girlfriends, 3 women who had experienced similar patterns of isolation and abuse, though none had suffered the ultimate loss Nadia had. You never told me there were others, Nadia said to Gabriel after the second woman testified. Helena found them during her investigation, he explained. They came forward voluntarily once they understood what happened to you. Vincent's defense team fought viciously, attempting to paint Nadia as emotionally unstable, suggesting she had fabricated allegations to punish Vincent for a relationship gone wrong. They questioned the paternity of the baby, implied Nadia had fallen accidentally while intoxicated, attacked her character from every angle. Through it all, Gabriel remained beside her, his presence a silent bulwark against the onslaught. The few times he testified, his testimony was measured, precise, devastating in its clarity about Vincent's history of deceit and manipulation. During the final week of testimony, Vincent took the stand. Nadia tensed as he entered the witness box, polished and rehearsed, playing the role of the wrongfully accused. Miss Winters and I had a passionate relationship, he stated smoothly. Volatile at times, yes, but I never laid hands on her in anger. And the night of March 17th? His attorney prompted. We argued, yes, about the baby. Vincent's expression turned sorrowful, practiced. I had discovered text messages suggesting I might not be the father. When confronted, Nadia became hysterical, began throwing things. I left the room to de-escalate the situation. That's when I heard her fall. Nadia's hands trembled with rage at the blatant lies. Gabriel covered her hand with his, a silent reminder to maintain composure. I ran to help her, Vincent continued, voice breaking theatrically. Called the ambulance immediately. I was devastated about the baby, whether it was mine or not. His performance continued, weaving truths with falsehoods, painting himself as the victim of Nadia's supposed instability.
When the prosecutor began cross-examination, however, the carefully constructed facade began to crack. Mr. Porter, you testified that you discovered text messages suggesting infidelity. Could you elaborate on how you accessed Miss Winter's phone? Vincent hesitated. She left it unlocked. Every time? Because according to Miss Winters, you regularly checked her messages without permission. That's not. And according to your previous employer, Sentinel Enterprises, you were terminated for accessing confidential information without authorization. Is that correct? Vincent's attorney objected, but the pattern had been established. Systematically, the prosecutor dismantled his testimony, highlighting inconsistencies, introducing phone records, contradicting his timeline, presenting the medical evidence showing the force required to cause Nadia's injuries. By the time Vincent stepped down, his confident demeanor had crumbled. He avoided looking at Nadia or Gabriel as he returned to the defense table. The closing arguments were delivered the following day. The prosecutor's final statement resonated throughout the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about power and control. Vincent Porter systematically isolated Nadia Winters, controlled her relationships, monitored her communications, and when she defied him by returning late from a doctor's appointment, he reacted with lethal violence that ended an innocent life. Lily Winters never had the chance to draw breath in this world because her father chose rage over reason, dominance over duty. Today, you have the power to deliver the justice Lily deserves. The defense's closing seemed hollow in comparison, a technical argument about reasonable doubt that failed to address the mountain of evidence. As the jury began deliberations, Gabriel turned to Nadia. Whatever the outcome, you've done everything possible for Lily. Remember that. Nadia nodded, throat tight with emotion. Thank you for everything. Don't thank me yet, he replied softly. This journey isn't over. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they returned with a verdict, Nadia sat rigid with tension, Gabriel steady beside her. On the count of involuntary manslaughter in the death of baby girl Winters, we find the defendant, Vincent Porter, guilty. The words washed over Nadia like a wave validation. Justice, but not closure. Not yet. The remainder of the charges, assault, domestic abuse, were also returned with guilty verdicts. Vincent's face drained of color as the reality of his situation became clear. As officers approached to take him into custody, he turned toward Nadia, his expression twisting with hatred. This isn't over, he hissed. You'll regret this. Gabriel stood, placing himself between Vincent and Nadia. I believe it is over, Porter. Completely. Something in Gabriel's tone, the absolute certainty, the subtle threat made Vincent falter. He allowed himself to be led away, without further comment. When the guilty verdict came down, Nadia felt strangely numb. Outside the courthouse, Gabriel guided her past the media frenzy to a private park nearby. How do you feel? He asked as they sat on a secluded bench. I thought I would feel closure, she admitted. But there's still this emptiness where Lily should be. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. My sister once told me something I didn't understand until years later. She said, grief isn't something you overcome, it's something you learn to carry differently as you grow stronger. Is that what you've done? Carried it differently? He looked away. I carried it like armor for too long. Until recently. What changed? His eyes met hers. I met someone who reminded me there's more to life than seeking justice. The air between them charged with unspoken possibilities. For months, they'd maintained careful boundaries. Gabriel, the protector, Nadia, the protected. But those roles had subtly shifted as she regained her strength, and he revealed his vulnerabilities. Gabriel, I don't know what happens now, she whispered. Neither do I, he admitted. But I'd like to find out. In the weeks following the trial, Nadia found herself at a crossroads. The apartment Gabriel had provided was meant to be temporary, a safe haven during the legal proceedings. With Vincent sentenced to 12 years in prison, the immediate danger had passed. You're welcome to stay as long as you wish, Gabriel assured her when she broached the subject, but I sense you're considering other options. They were walking through a downtown park, a weekend ritual they'd developed since the trial ended. I need to stand on my own feet again, Nadia explained. Find work, rebuild some kind of normal life. And what would that life include? Gabriel asked carefully. Your photography, perhaps? The camera he'd given her hung around her neck, now a constant companion. In the months since the trial, she'd filled memory cards with thousands of images, some beautiful, some raw, all part of her healing process. Maybe, she acknowledged. I've been thinking about approaching some galleries, seeing if they'd be interested in exhibiting a series I'm working on. Gabriel's face brightened. That's wonderful. What's the theme? Healing through brokenness, Nadia replied. Using light and shadow to transform damage into something meaningful. That sounds... Gabriel paused, searching for the right word. Powerful. Powerful. They continued walking, fallen leaves crunching beneath their feet. The boundary between professional alliance and personal relationship had blurred in recent weeks. They spent time together outside of any legal necessity, sharing meals, attending concerts, discovering shared interests beyond their connection through tragedy. Yet neither had taken the step to define what was developing between them. I have a proposition, Gabriel said suddenly. One that might address your desire for independence while supporting your artistic pursuits. Nadia glanced at him curiously. I'm listening. Sentinel has a charitable foundation that supports various causes. We've been looking to expand our arts program, specifically focusing on artists whose work addresses social issues. And? Nadia prompted, sensing where this was heading. And I believe your photography project would qualify for a grant. It would provide funding for equipment, studio space, exhibition costs, whatever you need to develop your work professionally. Nadia stopped walking. Gabriel, I can't accept more charity from you. It's not charity, he countered gently. It's investment in legitimate artistic expression. The selection committee is independent. I don't make the final decisions. But you influence them. I can submit your work for consideration, he acknowledged. But it would be evaluated on its own merit. Nadia studied him, weighing the offer against her pride. I'll think about it. That evening, alone in her apartment, Nadia reviewed her photographs. What had begun as therapy had evolved into something more cohesive, a visual narrative of trauma, grief, and gradual healing. Could others find value in these images? Might her personal journey help someone else processing similar pain? The next morning, she called Gabriel. I'd like to submit my portfolio to your foundation, she said when he answered. Not because I need financial support, but because I believe in the work. She could hear the smile in his voice. I'll have the application materials sent over today. 3 weeks later, Nadia received notification that her project had been approved for funding. The grant provided enough for professional printing, framing, and a small studio space in an arts district downtown. When she called Gabriel with the news, his response surprised her. I had nothing to do with the decision, he said immediately. The committee was unanimous. Your work speaks for itself. The pride in his voice warmed something inside her. Thank you for believing in me before I believed in myself. Nadia, he said softly, that's something you've done for me as well. 6 months after the trial's conclusion, Nadia stood in the gallery, watching strangers examine her photographs. The exhibition Shattered Rebuilt featured images documenting her journey from trauma to healing. Gabriel moved through the crowd, giving her space while remaining close enough if needed. Her favorite piece hung on the center wall, a photograph of dawn breaking over the city, taken from her apartment balcony during those quiet evenings with Gabriel. Beside it, a smaller frame contained the first sonogram of Lily, transformed into an ethereal image that captured both loss and love. This is remarkable work, commented the gallery owner, joining Nadia. Several pieces have already sold. There's a collector asking if you'd consider a commissioned series. Really? Nadia couldn't hide her surprise. Though the foundation grant had funded the exhibition, she hadn't expected commercial success. Really? The woman smiled. You've touched something universal here. The journey through darkness toward light. People respond to authenticity. A woman stood before these pieces longer than the others, finally turning with tears in her eyes. Are you the artist? Nadia nodded. I left my abusive husband last month, the woman confided. I wasn't sure I'd made the right choice until tonight. The encounter left Nadia shaken in the best possible way. The idea that her work might help others navigate their own healing journeys gave purpose to her pain. After the woman moved on, Gabriel approached, his hand finding the small of Nadia's back. "You're changing lives," he murmured. "We all change each other's lives," she replied. "You changed mine." His expression grew serious. "I have something to show you after the exhibition." Curiosity followed Nadia through the remainder of the evening. When the last guests departed and the gallery closed, Gabriel escorted her to his waiting car. "Where are we going?" she asked as they drove through unfamiliar streets. "Patience," he replied with an enigmatic smile. "It's a surprise." The car took them to a neighborhood Nadia didn't recognize, stopping before a beautiful brick building with large windows. "What is this place?" Gabriel led her inside to a space filled with natural light, photography equipment, and comfortable furniture. "The Lilywood Foundation," he explained, "a safe haven and creative space for women rebuilding their lives after domestic violence." Nadia turned slowly, taking in the details, the state-of-the-art equipment, the apartment spaces visible through a doorway, the wall already displaying some of her photographs. "You did this?" "We did this," he corrected. "Your strength inspired it. Your experience shaped it. I just provided the funding." She wandered through the space, overwhelmed by its implications, a place where women could find safety, develop skills, rebuild confidence, a kitchen where cooking classes would be offered, a daycare center for children, studios for various artistic pursuits, offices where legal and psychological support would be available. "The foundation will provide housing for up to 12 women at a time," Gabriel explained, following her, "plus day programs for many more. Everything is trauma-informed, focusing on empowerment rather than dependency." Tears welled in Nadia's eyes. "Lily would have loved this." "I think," Gabriel said carefully, "that she would have loved who her mother has become." Nadia moved to the windows, looking out at the garden where early spring flowers were beginning to bloom. For the first time since losing Lily, the future didn't feel like an empty void, but a canvas of possibilities. "There's something else," Gabriel said, joining her at the window. "I've been offered a chance to expand Sentinel's operations overseas, Berlin specifically." Her heart sank. "When do you leave?" "That depends." His voice had grown tentative, so unlike his usual confidence. "I was hoping you might consider coming with me, not as my protected witness or charity case, but as my partner. In this foundation, and perhaps in life." Nadia turned to study his face, the man who had entered her life during its darkest chapter and somehow helped write a new beginning. "We both carry ghosts, Gabriel." "Yes," he agreed, "and perhaps that's why we understand each other." She thought of the long journey from that first desperate meeting in his office to this moment, how they had circled each other cautiously, two wounded souls gradually finding healing in unexpected places. "What about the foundation?" "It's just beginning. Helena has agreed to oversee operations here," he explained, "and there's potential to establish a similar program in Berlin. Your exhibition has already attracted interest from galleries there." Nadia considered his words. The prospect of leaving was both frightening and exhilarating, a fresh start, a new chapter. "I'm not looking for someone to save me anymore," she said carefully. "Good." He took her hand. "Because I'm not looking to be anyone's savior, just their companion on the journey forward." Outside, the garden caught the late afternoon light, casting long shadows across new growth. Nadia thought about Lily, about Gabriel's sister Sophia, about the women who would find refuge in this place. How tragedy could, with time and care, transform into something meaningful. "Berlin sounds beautiful in the spring," she finally said. Gabriel's smile bloomed slowly, like the first light of dawn breaking across the horizon. "It is," he whispered, "but not as beautiful as new beginnings." 1 year later, Nadia adjusted her camera, capturing the ribbon-cutting ceremony at Lilywood, Berlin. What had begun as a single shelter had expanded into an international foundation, with Gabriel's resources and Nadia's vision creating safe spaces for women rebuilding their lives after trauma. "Perfect timing," Gabriel murmured, joining her as she reviewed the images. The light caught Helena's smile beautifully. Helena had flown in for the opening, bringing news of the original foundation's success. 27 women successfully transitioned to independent living, numerous others finding support through day programs. "She's done amazing work," Nadia agreed. We couldn't have expanded without her leadership. We make a good team, Gabriel replied, his hand finding hers. The simple platinum band on her finger caught the light a recent addition, their commitment to each other formalized in a quiet ceremony 3 months earlier. Their relationship had deepened gradually, each step forward accompanied by honest conversations about their pasts, their fears, their hopes. Gabriel's nightmares about failing Sophia had diminished in frequency. Nadia's about Vincent, and the fall had similarly receded. Healing wasn't linear, they both understood this truth. Some days were harder than others. Anniversaries brought renewed grief. But increasingly, joy found space, alongside sorrow, not replacing it, but coexisting in a life rich with meaning. Have you decided about the exhibition in New York? Gabriel asked, as they walked through the garden behind the Berlin Foundation. Nadia's photography career had flourished, her work gaining international recognition for its raw emotion and transformative perspective. I think I'll accept, she decided. If Helena can manage without me for a few weeks, she'll insist you go, Gabriel smiled. She's your biggest advocate, after me. They reached the small memorial garden, a feature replicated from the original foundation. A stone bench faced a reflecting pool surrounded by flowers. In the center, a simple plaque bore the names of those in whose memory the foundation existed. For Lily and Sophia, whose stories continue through every life touched here. Nadia sat on the bench, Gabriel beside her. In the quiet garden of the Lilywood Foundation, the small memorial stone caught the morning light. Beside it, Nadia planted wildflowers each spring, watching them grow stronger with each passing year, much like the woman she had become. I've been thinking, she said softly, about expanding the foundation's focus. Gabriel raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. We help women rebuild after trauma, which is vital. But what if we also worked on prevention? Education programs about healthy relationships, warning signs of abuse, reaching young people before patterns form, breaking cycles before they begin. Gabriel nodded thoughtfully. It's ambitious. Too ambitious? She questioned. His smile was answer enough. Nothing is too ambitious for you, Nadia Thornton. You've taught me that. As they sat together, planning their shared future, Nadia reflected on the unlikely path that had brought them together, how the worst moment of her life had eventually led to purpose, healing, and love. Vincent had taken something precious from her, a loss she would always carry. But he hadn't taken everything, couldn't take everything. Not her strength, not her capacity to rebuild, not her ability to transform grief into purpose. In seeking justice for Lily, she had found something unexpected, a life where her daughter's brief existence continued to matter, continued to create ripples of change in the world. And in the man beside her, once sought out as an instrument of vengeance, she had found a partner who understood that healing wasn't about forgetting the past, but about building a future where that past had meaning. What are you thinking? Gabriel asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Nadia leaned her head against his shoulder. That sometimes the most broken places are where the light finally gets in.